This is going to be one of those, excuse me. This is going to be one of those, there are so many ways to skin this cat in Pro Tools. So some of us already know about routing folders and basic folders and aux tracks and VCAs, and some of us don't. So this might be a review. This might be brand new. So we have all of our drum tracks. One way I could gain control, let's say that I like this. In fact, let me just do this. I think, how do you do this again? There we go. All right. So I like the mix of the drums, let's say. And I would like to be able to solo all of them. I would like to either raise them all together or lower them all together while maintaining this balance. So one thing that I can do, if I have all of them highlighted, I can hit Command G or edit. It is under edit, isn't it? No, it's under track group. I just know Command G. And I'm going to call this drums. And I have some control over what I can do. Do I want the behavior to work only in the edit window or only in the mix window or in both? I can go to globals and what do I want to happen? Volume, mute, panning, no. Like, do I want to do all of these controls to all of them? Solos, I do want. So I'm going to hit OK. So this is now my drum group. Strumming my pain with this finger. And I have control over all of them. I am actually doing something wrong here, but I will fix that, I promise. Oops, that was not so smart. Come on, dude. Okay, so I have volume control, I have solos, I have mutes. If I'm in the edit window, I can highlight all of my drum tracks and edit them together. Pretty useful, okay? If I want to, what I would do then, if I want to disable the group and I want to say, ooh, that kick drum was a little loud, I need to come down here and disable the group. Fine, not a big deal. Another way that you can gain control over all of your tracks is to create what is called a VCA. A VCA, you notice, has no mono or stereo. And I'm just going to call this drums VCA. And it creates a new track. You can see that it does not have any inserts or sends, and that means that it does not pass audio. So what we want to do is we want to assign this VCA to a group. And at this point, it gives us control over all of them. What is nicer about a VCA than a simple group is that when I come to individual faders, I can make those changes without having to disable the group. So this gives me volume control over the group. That's it. Well, it lets me also solo or mute. I can still solo the individual track. And so I came to see. So VCA does that for me. I'm going to delete my VCA. No. All right, what else can I do? I could make a stereo aux track and call this drum sub. And I could make this a bus. And in this instance, what I would do is I would take all the tracks Option Shift and change the output to a bus. So now all of these are going to my drum sub. It gives me individual control. So I can hear, I can solo. I can raise the volumes. I'm not being smart. If I solo this, so then I'm getting a little bit annoyed by having to do solos. I could still bring back my group, my drum group. I gotta remember to disable it. Those types of things. So what is cool about a drum sub as compared to a VCA? Well, this is all going through, and I can process, I can add an EQ across the top of it, or compression, or what have you, to the entire group. Let's go output on these, because I'm going to delete my drum sub. Next, organizational strategies. There is something called a basic folder. So if we come over here, and we just make a basic folder, away goes our mono and stereo, samples and ticks. And basically what this allows us to do is simply to nest these tracks inside of it. So that's super cool. I heard he sang a good Oh, yeah, I knew something was funky. I forgot to change these back to output. All right, so I can mute it. I can solo. I have no volume control. I have no processing. So in a certain sense, a folder is really just an organizational tool, at least a basic folder. Now, imagine that I have many different types of sounds. Like I have a whole bunch of synths, and it's not exactly that I want to mix them all together. It's nice just to kind of like nest them in something that I can hide. But even I think probably the best out of all of them is a somewhat new, not that new anymore, the routing folder. And I'm going to call this drums. And I think that calling it that before you make it is useful. So I'm going to take all my drums and I'm going to drop it in just like I did in the basic folder. You do have one more step here where you have to take your drums, Option Shift, output, choose a bus, and choose drums. This is called drums 1. I already had one called drums. Okay. So now I can solo. I can mute. I can solo. I can adjust all of the different volumes. And so I came to see him. I can EQ the whole drum group. And, you know, all of these have their own benefits and drawbacks. So I would still have a group because when it comes time, say, to edit some things, like, you know, we cut off a little bit of this drum thing. If I want to just do this across the whole thing, and then I can hit Command E and I can boom, okay? So it does it all across all of the tracks. So having a group is good, but on its own, it doesn't give us everything that, say, a routing folder does. So basically, you know, we will use an aux track for a different function, but for this general kind of organizational tool, I definitely think that routing folders is the way to go. So I made a routing folder for my drums. I made a routing folder for my vocals, but they're not in it because I forgot I was doing something. Okay, so I have my backup vocals, not all my vocals. I have my lead. What is this doing here? I don't even know. Let's get rid of those. So I have my lead and my outro separate because I am not trying to raise them in conjunction with my backups. So I have my drum routing folder. I have my vocal routing folder. The guitars, just because it's a guitar on the verse, guitar on the chorus, not that worried about it. This has gotten to be a much more manageable session. I'm going to ask you to do two things for the assignment in Canvas.